My dad felt bad for me pining over him in secret for 10 years, so he simply slipped a drug into his much older close buddy's drink and sent him to my bed. When I woke up he agreed to marry me, his voice cold as ice. But shortly after our wedding Finji was constantly flying overseas on business trips, each lasting as long as 3 years. I gave birth to our daughter Shinshin all alone, staying at home and waiting for his return. It was not until 3 years later, when word got around that he was coming back, that I skipped an important dinner engagement, held our daughter in my arms and headed to the airport to pick him up. Shinshin begged him to hold her, but he just shot me a flat glance and said, "Sorry, I'm a clean freak." From then on, my daughter and I washed our hands more than 3 times every single time, and the floors at home were scrubbed spotlessly clean. Yet he still refused to come back and never once held Shinshin in his arms. That was until I saw a video clip. Someone asked him, "Finn, what do you think is the happiest thing in the world?" He replied offhandedly, "Last week abroad putting Jiao Jiao to sleep, then dragging Nova into the bathroom." Amid a chorus of catcalls, my hands and feet turned stone cold. Nova Ming was his ex-girlfriend he'd never really let go of, and Jiao Jiao was her daughter. I'd heard rumors that they'd been living together all those 3 years he was overseas. Turns out it was all true. My heart shattered into a million pieces. I left a divorce agreement, took my daughter, cancelled our household registrations and moved abroad. Our nanny picked Shinshin up from kindergarten, and the little girl came home with her eyes swollen from crying. "Mommy, does that mean Shinshin doesn't have a daddy?" She hiccuped through her sobs, utterly wronged. Daddy promised to come to my kindergarten parent-teacher conference, but when he showed up he said he was Jiao Jiao Ming's daddy. "Mommy, everyone at school says Shinshin is a kid without a daddy." Wah! A sharp, stabbing pain tore at my chest. My eyes reddened as I pulled my daughter into my arms. I wanted to say something to comfort her, but the memory of Finji's frigid demeanor stuck in my throat, and the words died on my lips. I was drowning in regret. I'd thought that after waiting 3 long years, I'd finally worn him down, that he was ready to come home and reunite with our mother and daughter. Never did I imagine that he'd only come back because Nova Ming had mentioned wanting to return to the country. He'd bought a plane ticket without a second thought, arranged everything perfectly, and even transferred his ex-girlfriend's daughter to the best kindergarten in town. On the day we went to the airport to meet him, Shinshin put on her prettiest dress and asked me nervously, "Mommy, will Daddy like Shinshin?" I nodded. Shinshin is Daddy's only daughter. Of course he will. But when we arrived at the airport, brimming with excitement, we saw Finji holding Nova Ming's hand, with a 3-year-old girl in his arms. Shinshin and I froze in place. Finji flicked a cold glance at me. "Sorry, I need to settle Nova and Jiao Jiao first. You two go home." He didn't spare Shinshin even a single look, yet his eyes softened with tender affection as he gazed at Jiao Jiao Ming. The memory made me close my eyes in despair. "I'm sorry, Shinshin. It's all Mommy's fault. Next time, Mommy will go to your parent-teacher conference." I washed Shinshin's face and after a lot of coaxing finally got her to fall asleep. But her little brows were still furrowed tightly. "Daddy. Hug me." My heart felt like it was being pricked by 1,000 needles. If that incident 3 years ago had never happened, Shinshin would never have had to suffer like this. 3 years ago my dad, feeling sorry for me pining over Finji for a decade, had drugged him and sent him to my bed. I was horrified. "Dad, are you trying to get me killed?" "My dead sight. Dad's known for a long time that you like Finji. That boy likes you too, he's just too stubborn to say it out loud." That night when he was drunk I even heard him muttering your name. I was so frustrated watching you two beat around the bush. Why not just skip the nonsense and make it a done deal? I resisted fiercely, only to suddenly feel a burning heat surge through my body. My dad chuckled. "I slipped something in your drink too, honey. Cherish this night." Then he locked the door from the outside. The morning after that night, Finji woke up and said coldly, "Willow, I'll take responsibility for you. I'll marry you." I thought a happy life was finally about to begin. But then at a party I accidentally overheard him talking to his friend. "Finn, don't take what you have for granted. Willow Song's got looks, money, and most importantly she's head over heels in love with you. Just settle down and be happy." Finji took a drag on his cigarette and sneered. "I did have a crush on her once. But I never thought she'd be such a loose woman. Just thinking about how she drugged me that night and threw herself at me makes me feel sick." I hadn't even figured out how to explain things to him when half a month later he applied for a visa and left the country. That one night though left me with a child. I gave birth to Shinshin alone, waiting day and night, counting the seconds for his return. But the only thing I waited for was his tangled relationship with Nova Ming and her daughter. The huge villa felt empty and silent. I pulled out my phone about to call Finji and ask when he'd be coming home, when the door suddenly swung open. Finji walked in, his expression cold and distant. He glanced at the sleeping Xinshin and said casually, "Jiao Jiao is coming over to play tomorrow. You and Xinshin need to go out." Meeting my confused gaze, he curled his lips into a smile and explained, "Jiao Jiao is really possessive. She can't stand other little girls calling me daddy." The anger I'd been bottling up finally exploded. I laughed bitterly, my voice trembling with rage. "Finji, do you even remember who your real daughter is? Do you have any idea what happened to Xinshin at kindergarten today?" Finji frowned slightly and cut me off sharply. "Willow Song, I don't need you to remind me of that. About what happened at the kindergarten today, I'm sorry. Jiao Jiao had her parent-teacher conference too. Nova got divorced a long time ago and she's been raising Jiao Jiao alone, swamped with work. Besides, long before I met you, I swore to Nova that I'd never let her be wronged. I already married you like you wanted. You can't stop me from looking out for them. I owe them that much." With that, Finji tossed his jacket aside and headed for the bathroom. The sound of running water drowned out my desperate, helpless sobs. If I'd known that marrying him would lead to such a life, I would have rather died than given in that night. I stared at the divorce agreement I'd just finished typing on my laptop and let out a bitter laugh. If it weren't for Xinshin, I would have filed for divorce a long time ago, given my personality. But every time I saw how wronged she looked, I wanted to fight a little longer, not wanting her to grow up without a father. Early the next morning, Xinshin woke up, overjoyed to hear that Daddy was home. She bounced up and down on her little bed. "I'm going to show Daddy the picture I just painted." Kids forget things quickly. She'd already forgiven Finji for what happened at kindergarten the day before. Xinshin ran downstairs happily, only to see Nova Ming and Jiao Jiao Ming there, with Finji gently peeling an orange for Jiao Jiao. "Daddy, who are they?" Seeing Xinshin still at home, Finji frowned. "Why are you still here? Where's your mother?" Frightened by his tone, Xinshin still held out the family portrait she'd spent a whole week painting, her voice small and tentative. "This is the family portrait Xinshin painted. I wanted to give it to Daddy when he came home." Before the painting could reach Finji's hands, a small, rude hand snatched it away. "What a stupid painting." Jiao Jiao Ming stamped her foot, tore the painting in half, then pushed my daughter hard. "This is my daddy. Ji Xinshin, everyone says you're a bastard. Who do you think you are, calling him daddy?" Seeing Xinshin fall to the floor and burst into tears, I snapped. I rushed over to help her up, my eyes cold as I glared at Jiao Jiao Ming. "Apologize." Finji's brows furrowed deeply. He shot me an annoyed look. "Willow Song, why are you being so mean to a child?" Without a second thought, he scooped Jiao Jiao Ming into his arms. "I told you last night, Jiao Jiao can't stand it when other kids call me daddy. She was just upset and wronged. She didn't push Xinshin on purpose." I stood my ground, my voice firm. "Couldn't you see exactly what she did? Finji, she just called my daughter a bastard to her face. Tell her, is Xinshin a bastard?" Finji hesitated for a moment, then turned back to cooing softly at Jiao Jiao, making no move to demand an apology. Nova Ming rolled her eyes subtly, then put on a gentle, apologetic smile. "Miss Song, I'm so sorry. Jiao Jiao grew up abroad. She's always been straightforward with her words. Please don't take it to heart." Her fake apology only made Jiao Jiao Ming look even more smug. "I didn't lie. Everyone at school says so. Ji Xinshin is a bastard. She stole my daddy." My hands curled into tight fists as I stared coldly at Finji. I'd endured his clean freak excuse, accommodated him in every way possible. I'd turned a blind eye when he stayed out late under the pretense of working overtime, carrying on with another woman. But I would never tolerate someone calling my daughter a bastard. "Finji," I said, my voice steady and icy, "I'm asking you one last time, is Xinshin a bastard?" A flicker of irritation crossed Finji's face. He let out a cold laugh. "How she became my daughter. I think you know the truth better than anyone. Dao, drop it. Today is Jiao Jiao's day to play here. Let's not ruin everyone's mood." Nova Ming and her daughter watched from the side, clearly amused. Finji's face softened with tenderness as he lifted Jiao Jiao into his arms. "Daddy will buy you toys, okay? And a pretty Elsa dress. Anything you want," Finji said, his voice dripping with indulgence. I watched his retreating back, my heart turning to ice. Finally, I said the words I'd been holding back for far too long. "Finji, let's get a divorce." Fin-ji froze mid-step then turned around slowly, his eyes cold and sharp. Willow Song, do you really think this little tantrum is going to work? If you think threatening me with a divorce will make me change my mind. Fine. Have it your way. With that he walked out without looking back. Nova Ming's eyes glinted with triumph, but she quickly masked it with a worried expression. She turned back to me pretending to apologize again. I'm truly sorry about all this, Miss Song. Fin and I are just good friends, I swear. He's just such a loyal, kind-hearted man. He feels bad for me raising Jiao Jiao alone after my divorce. That's why he's been looking out for us. Please don't misunderstand him. And don't let this silly fight ruin your marriage. Before leaving, Nova Ming added me on social media, saying she wanted to compensate Xin for the ruined painting. Nova. Hurry up. Fin-ji stood not far away, holding Jiao Jiao in his arms and calling out to her softly. Coming. Nova Ming lit up and chased after him. They hadn't gone far when their conversation drifted back to me clearly. Fin, honestly. Miss Song only said she wanted a divorce out of anger. How could you just agree to it? Fin-ji scoffed. She clawed her way into this marriage by any means necessary. Do you really think she'd ever let it go? Earlier she was so mean to our Jiao Jiao. This is just a little punishment for her. It won't be long before she's begging me to come back. I couldn't help but sneer bitterly. People change, Fin-ji. The Willow Song who once threw herself recklessly into love was dead. Now for the sake of my daughter I would choose to leave you for good. Xin hid in her room, sobbing uncontrollably. Mommy, all the kids at school say Daddy is Jiao Jiao Ming's daddy. But Xin wasn't trying to steal him. Later she fell asleep clutching Fin-ji's photo, but I lay awake all night. I unlocked my phone and saw that Nova Ming had posted a new update on her social media. Jiao Jiao finally has the fatherly love she's been missing. What's ours will always be ours, no one can take it away. Beneath the words was a photo, the three of them huddled closely together, smiling at the camera like a perfect family. I casually tapped the like button, then a message suddenly popped up on my screen. It was a video sent by Nova Ming. I clicked it open and Fin-ji's handsome face filled the frame. The timestamp showed it was taken shortly after he returned to the country. A friend asked him, Fin, what do you think is the happiest thing in the world? He replied offhandedly, last week abroad putting Jiao Jiao to sleep, then dragging Nova into the bathroom. The tenderness in his eyes was unmistakable, mixed with the sound of teasing from the people around him. My hands and feet turned ice cold. Nova Ming had shared a post once. Ever since we had the baby, we haven't had a moment alone together. We can only sneak around and be intimate after Jiao Jiao falls asleep. I stared blankly, lost in thought, until another message from Nova Ming popped up. I'm so sorry. I accidentally sent that to you by mistake. By the time I realized it, I couldn't take it back. But to be honest, you should know where Fin's heart lies by now, right? You forced him into marriage by using underhanded tricks to become Mrs. G. For those 3 years overseas he stayed by my side and Jiao Jiao's the entire time. Even though Jiao Jiao isn't his biological daughter, Fin treats her more thoughtfully than any real father would. Even after we broke up he couldn't bear to leave me. It won't be long before we get back together for good. Miss Song, I know your family is wealthy. You don't need this man. I'd advise you not to make things harder for yourself, just step aside gracefully. After sending that she followed up with another photo. Jiao Jiao Ming stood in the middle, grinning brightly, while Nova and Fin-ji kissed her cheeks at the same time. They looked exactly like a happy, loving family. I smiled faintly and typed back a single word, fine. Then I picked up the phone and called my dad. Dad, I've made up my mind. I'm taking Xin to settle abroad. We'll leave in a few days. My dad's voice was filled with surprise and joy. Really? But I heard Xiaoji's back. You three finally got to reunite as a family. Did he agree to this? I let out a bleak, bitter laugh. He couldn't be happier about it. That night I didn't wait up for Fin-ji to come home like I always did. As soon as he walked through the door he frowned at the pitch-black house. I always left a light on for him. But tonight was different. And it wouldn't be the last time. For 3 whole days after that I didn't say a single word to Fin-ji. Seemingly sensing that something was wrong, Fin-ji came home with a gift box in hand. Willow, this is for you. A flicker of apology crossed his face. Jiao Jiao was being unreasonable the other day. I apologize to you and Xin on her behalf. With that he opened the box, revealing an outdated necklace inside. He took it out. Let me put it on for you. I stepped back calmly, avoiding his hand. No need to trouble yourself. I'd seen that necklace before on Nova Ming's social media. It was a style she'd mocked as old-fashioned and tacky, saying she wouldn't even pick it up off the street. My expression remained impassive as I walked past Fin-ji, grabbed Xin, changed her clothes and headed out to the car. His eyes followed me and he froze for a moment, his gaze lingering on me for a long time. You look different today. Where are you going? I'll drive you. Fin-ji's tone was unusually eager. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of myself in a crisp, sharp pantsuit. Back when I was trying to please him, I only ever wore soft feminine dresses. But during those 3 years he was gone, I'd started my own company, handled business dinners and even learned to fix leaky pipes by myself. I didn't need him. As for driving, no thanks. I think I'm a better driver than you are. Besides, the reason I was going out today was to take Xin to cancel our household registrations in China. 3 hours later we walked out after finishing the paperwork, only to find Fin-ji's car parked at the entrance. He was staring at me, his brows tightly furrowed. Willow-song, what are you doing here with our daughter? He'd followed me here. He'd watched me carry Xin inside and now 3 hours had passed. For some reason, an inexplicable sense of unease gnawed at his chest. I smiled faintly. It's nothing. Our IDs expired, we just came to get new ones. Aren't you busy today? I heard Nova Ming's been looking for a job lately. I'm sure she needs your help. Fin-ji stared at me intently, his expression unreadable. After a long moment he let out a cold laugh. Willow-song, you really are something else. I've never seen a woman who practically shoves her own husband into another woman's arms. But if that's what you want, fine. The car door slammed shut loudly, and Fin-ji's vehicle disappeared from sight in the blink of an eye. I didn't understand. I was doing him a favor by letting him be with the woman he loved, so why was he so angry? It wasn't until later from Fin-ji's assistant that I found out the truth. Madam, Mr. Ji specifically took the day off to spend time with you and Xin. Why did you have to drive him away like that? And now he's gotten completely drunk and gone to see Nova Ming and her daughter again. The assistant had always thought Fin and I were perfect together and had tried tirelessly to reconcile us. But now I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Thank you for telling me. But let him do whatever he wants. After all, we only had 3 days left. In 3 days Xin and I would be leaving the city for good. But I never could have imagined that on the very day I finished Xin's school transfer paperwork, Jiao Ming would push her into the water, triggering a sudden life-threatening emergency. I went crazy with panic, rushing Xin to the hospital for emergency treatment. But the doctors told me that Fin-ji had diverted all the city's medical resources to treat Jiao Ming's allergies. Watching Xin's pale, fragile little face, I frantically dialed Fin-ji's number, begging him to save our daughter. On the other end of the line I could hear Nova Ming crying hysterically. Fin-ji sounded completely frazzled, but then he let out a cold, mocking laugh. Willow-song, stop playing the victim. Xin's perfectly fine. What kind of attention-seeking stunt are you pulling this time? The other day I took time off to be with you and Xin and you chased me away. Now Jiao's having a severe allergic reaction, and you're trying to stir up trouble out of jealousy? A metallic taste of blood filled my throat. I opened my mouth to explain, but all I heard was the sound of the line going dead. Despair washed over me like a tidal wave. I expected Xin to burst into tears, but instead she lay there with an oxygen mask on her face, looking at me with eerie calm. Mommy. Daddy really doesn't want Xin anymore, does he? She managed a small, understanding smile and weakly wiped the tears from my cheeks. Don't cry, Mommy. Then Xin doesn't want Daddy anymore either. In the end I had to call my dad. Using his connections he managed to fly in a top specialist from a neighboring city for an emergency consultation. During Xin's entire hospital stay, Fin-ji never showed up once. Meanwhile, the local TV news was running a story praising Fin-ji as a domineering CEO for mobilizing the entire city's medical resources to save a little girl's life. I stared coldly at his worried face on the screen. Fin-ji, if you love them that much, then my daughter and I will step aside and let you have them. The day Xin was discharged from the hospital, I cancelled our household registrations, deleted Fin-ji's contact information, snapped my phone card in half, and left the city with Xin, never to return. Fin-ji let out a long, relieved breath when he heard that Jiao was finally out of danger from her allergic reaction. Nova Ming had been beside herself with worry for the past 2 days, and now she'd finally fallen asleep from exhaustion. For some reason though, Fin-ji felt a strange hollow ache in his chest. He pulled out his phone on instinct and turned it on. He turned it off forcefully for the past 2 days, fully expecting Willow Song to blow up his phone with calls and messages, desperate to reach him. But when he saw the screen he froze. Not a single missed call. He frowned in surprise and opened his chat history with me. The last message was from 2 days ago. Willow Song begging, "Please answer the phone. Shin's in the hospital, she needs emergency surgery." But Finji had only glanced at it with disgust. He thought it was just another one of her jealous, attention-seeking tricks. He hadn't even bothered to reply. A sudden, overwhelming sense of dread crashed over Finji. He lifted his hand about to dial my number, when he heard 2 nurses talking as they walked past in the hospital corridor. "Did you hear? The famous Dr. Zhang from the neighboring city came all the way here to save Ji Xinshin's life. Thank goodness Ms. Song has such good connections." Yeah. If he hadn't gotten here in time, that poor little girl would have died from her sudden emergency. At the sound of those familiar names, Finji shot to his feet, grabbed the nurses by their arms and demanded sharply, "Wait a minute, did I just hear you say Ji Xinshin? And Ms. Song?" The 2 nurses exchanged confused glances. "Yes, Mr. Ji. Didn't you know? 2 days ago, when you were diverting all the city's medical resources to our hospital, there was another little girl named Ji Xinshin in the other branch who had a sudden life-threatening emergency and needed urgent resuscitation. Everyone thought the little girl wouldn't make it without enough doctors. Luckily, Ms. Song pulled some strings and got a specialist from the neighboring city. It was a close call, but she's safe now." Finji's face drained of all color inch by inch. "Are you absolutely sure the girl's name is Ji Xinshin?" "Yes." The nurse nodded firmly, noticing his ashen expression. "Is something wrong, Mr. Ji? Do you know that little girl?" These past few days, Finji's act of mobilizing the entire city's medical resources had cemented his reputation as a domineering, devoted father. Even the hospital nurses were gushing over him. Too bad he'd married so young with a wife like Nova Ming and a lucky daughter like Jiao Jiaoming. Finji collapsed onto a nearby chair. "Ji Xinshin is my daughter." The nurse let out a disbelieving laugh. "Mr. Ji, don't joke around. Everyone knows your daughter is Jiao Jiaoming. The TV reporters even said so, how you dote on your wife and love your precious daughter so much that you let her take her mother's surname. People are even joking that they wish they could be your second child in their next life." Finji's head snapped up. "Who told you that?" The nurse gestured toward Nova Ming, who was sleeping in the ward. "Ms. Ming, of course. She said you two are deeply in love, and that you're totally wrapped around your daughter's little finger. Besides, that Ji Xinshin girl was on the brink of death and her father never even showed up. How could she possibly be your daughter?" Each word hit Finji like a blow, his expression darkening with rage. Without a second thought, he stormed into the ward and slammed the door shut behind him. Nova Ming was jolted awake, rubbing her bleary eyes as she looked at him. "Fin, what's wrong?" Finji's voice was icy with anger. "Did you tell the reporters and the hospital staff that you're my wife? And that Jiao Jiao is my daughter? And don't think I forgot Jiao Jiao's allergic reaction was one thing, but how did those reporters even get wind of it and show up at the hospital?" A flicker of guilt crossed Nova Ming's eyes. She forced an awkward smile. "It must have been a misunderstanding. After all, everyone heard Jiao Jiao calling you Daddy when she was in pain from the allergy. It only made sense for them to assume I'm your wife." Nova Ming's voice turned soft and hurt, but she put on a selfless act. "Fin, are you upset about this? If it bothers you, I can go out there and clarify everything." Nova Ming deliberately reddened her eyes, pretending to drag her feet toward the door. Sure enough, Finji stopped her after just a few steps. "No need." Nova Ming's lips curled into a triumphant smile. She'd him all figured out. Finji had always hated drawing attention to himself. If he went out of his way to set the record straight now, it would only make him look foolish. That's why, even before Jiao Jiao's allergic reaction flared up, Nova Ming had arranged for reporters to stake out the hospital. She knew perfectly well that if Finji went to such lengths to treat Jiao Jiao, mobilizing the entire city's medical resources, the media would go wild. Then she'd be known as Mrs. Ji to everyone. Even if Willow Song had a marriage certificate, who would believe her? After that, Nova Ming could just hire some internet trolls to spread rumors that Willow Song was the homewrecker. Then Willow and her daughter would have no choice but to get out of their lives for good. Nova Ming scrolled through the trending topics on her phone, grinning as she read headlines about how the domineering CEO Finji had moved heaven and earth to save his beloved daughter. She'd taken a huge risk and it had paid off. Nova Ming put on a worried expression. Fin, you seem so distracted. What's on your mind? Can I help you carry the burden? Fin Ji shook his head, letting out a helpless sigh. I just heard from the nurses that Xin was hospitalized too, with a sudden medical emergency. But I've been calling Willow Song and I can't get through to her. That afternoon Fin Ji could no longer sit still. I have to go home and check on Willow and Xin. If Xin really did have a sudden emergency, she must be terrified. But before he could finish speaking, a small pair of arms wrapped tightly around his thighs. Wah! Daddy, don't leave Jiao Jiao. Jiao Jiao had just woken up. She'd been staring at Fin Ji with a mischievous smile, but when she heard he was leaving, Nova Ming shot her a quick signal. The little girl instantly got the message, bursting into loud, dramatic sobs and clinging to Fin Ji's legs like a koala. Nova Ming feigned understanding. Jiao Jiao, be good. Daddy has important things to do. Let go of him, okay? Jiao Jiao shook her head violently. No. Daddy has to stay with me. If you leave, I won't take my medicine ever again. Fin Ji's brows furrowed deeply, torn between the two sides. His assistant stepped forward, trying to reassure him. Mr. Ji, don't worry too much. Madam loves you so much. She waited for you for 3 whole years overseas, gave birth to your daughter alone, raised her by herself and never stopped hoping for your return. How many women would have the strength and patience to do that? It's just that you didn't answer her calls. She's probably just angry for a few days. Once she knows the truth, she'll forgive you. Fin Ji thought it made perfect sense, the tension in his shoulders easing. He nodded with a smile. You're right. Willow Song loves our daughter more than anything. She must be at home with Xin waiting for me to come back. She went to such lengths to marry me. Her study was full of secret diaries about her crush on me. Where else could she have gone? I must have been so busy these days that I'm overthinking things. Fin Ji settled back down, relieved. Once Jiao Jiao is discharged, I'll go home and spend all my time with them. A week passed in the blink of an eye. As soon as Xin and I landed, we headed straight for my dad's new home. He'd grown tired of life in China these past few years and suddenly developed a longing to watch the ocean in the Pacific. He'd fallen in love with the laid-back lifestyle there and decided to settle down permanently. He looked at me and said, "My darling girl, your dad will always be your safety net. No matter what happens, I'll have your back." When my dad saw Xin and me, his face lit up with joy. He couldn't close his mouth from smiling. "Grandpa. My sweet Xin. Did you miss Grandpa?" "Of course I did. Mommy said we're going to live with Grandpa and eat all his delicious food forever." The grandfather and granddaughter burst into laughter. That night, after tucking Xin into bed, my dad looked at me with a worried expression. "Yao, we couldn't talk about this properly on the phone. Now tell me what really happened between you and Fin Ji." I told him the entire story from start to finish. In the end, I let out a bitter laugh. "Dad, we were wrong to be so stubborn back then. We forced something that was never meant to be. Fin Ji never really loved me. You can't make someone love you if their heart isn't in it. I tried my best, I really did. But since his heart was never mine, it's time to let go. Besides, I'm more than capable of supporting myself and Xin. Just give me one of your companies here to manage and I'll make you millions in a year. Raising Xin on my own will be no problem at all." My dad sighed heavily, shaking his head. "That doesn't make sense. I swear I saw it with my own eyes back then. Fin Ji did like you. How did things end up like this?" I looked at Xin's sleeping face and smiled softly. Maybe he had loved me once, briefly. Otherwise, knowing his stubborn personality, he never would have agreed to marry me, not even if I'd held a knife to his throat. I'd never doubted that his feelings were real once upon a time. But feelings are fleeting. They change in the blink of an eye. The next day my dad pulled some strings and enrolled Xin in the best kindergarten in town. He'd been swamped with work lately, dealing with a company acquisition that had him stressed to the max. But now that I was here, he finally had a capable right-hand person. He could retire early and spend his days fishing like he'd always dreamed of. 2 weeks later, amidst my busy schedule at work, I suddenly received an email from Assistant Chen. "Madam, I don't know if you'll ever see this email. I've tried every way to contact you but nothing worked. I can only guess that you've cancelled your Chinese ID and left the country. You have no idea how distraught Mr. Ji has been these past few days. He's practically going out of his mind." I leaned back in my chair and read the email line by line. Assistant Chen told me everything that had happened back in China. As soon as Fin Ji had accompanied Jiao Jiao through her discharge process, he'd rushed home in a hurry, only to freeze in the doorway, stunned. The warm, cozy home that had always been filled with life was now eerily clean and empty. All traces of Shinshin and me were gone, our clothes, our books, even the little toys that had been scattered across the floor. At first he'd convinced himself that I'd just taken Shinshin on a short trip. But days turned into a week and we still didn't come back. Finji had always been a man of few words, but after waiting for a week he finally broke down and sent me a message. Willow Song, where have you taken Shinshin? But the message failed to send. A bright red exclamation mark stared back at him on the screen. It was then that Finji finally realized he'd been blocked. Finji rushed to Shinshin's kindergarten, panic rising in his chest. I'm here to pick up Shinshin from school. The kindergarten teacher looked at him in confusion. Mr. G, are you sure you're at the right place? I thought you were Jiao Jiao's father. Finji froze. Only then did he realize the magnitude of his mistake. Every time he'd come to the kindergarten before, it had been to pick up Jiao Jiao or attend her parent-teacher conferences. He'd never once paid attention to Shinshin. Now even the teachers thought he was Jiao Jiao's father. Finji frowned, trying to explain. No, that's a misunderstanding. Jiao Jiao is the daughter of a friend. Ji Shinshin is my biological daughter. The teacher let out a laugh as if she'd just heard the funniest joke in the world. She looked him up and down, disdain clear in her eyes. I've never seen anything like this. You show up every time for someone else's daughter's events, but you don't even recognize your own child. If I didn't know better, I'd think you're playing some kind of weird cosplay. Ji Shinshin transferred schools and left a long time ago. Her mother said they were moving abroad to settle down. They probably left over a week ago. Finji stood rooted to the spot, his voice trembling with disbelief. What? Moved abroad to settle down? It sounded like the most absurd thing he'd ever heard. His legs felt weak and he had to steady himself against the wall. How is that possible? All these years, Willow Song had waited for him in their marital home in China. Even when he'd been overseas for 3 years, he'd only had to say, don't come, and she'd respected his wish, never once trying to visit him. She'd raised their daughter alone, all by herself. There were times when Finji couldn't bear to think about it, how she'd managed to get through those sleepless nights with a newborn, how she'd juggled work and motherhood, how she'd smiled and told Shinshin that daddy loved her, even when he was thousands of miles away. But he'd always told himself that it was her fault. That night 3 years ago had been her doing. He'd thought that this was his punishment for her and that it wasn't enough. He'd wanted to make her suffer more, to prove that her love for him was strong enough to endure anything. But now, standing in the empty kindergarten hallway, a crushing wave of regret washed over him, regret more painful than anything he'd ever felt before. Finji snapped, his voice cracking with desperation as he called his contacts. Find them. I don't care what it takes, bring my wife and daughter back to me. These days he'd locked himself inside the silent villa. Ever since he'd returned to China, Willow Song had ironed every single one of his suits until they were crisp and perfect. The floors had always been spotlessly clean, polished to a shine. The villa had once been filled with the sound of our laughter, Shinshin's giggles as she ran through the halls, my soft voice as I sang her to sleep. But now the villa was nothing but a cold, empty shell. Silent as a tomb. Finji felt the loneliness and regret in his heart growing heavier by the minute. The only thing he wanted now was to see his wife and daughter immediately. Nova Ming and Jiao Jiao came to the villa to look for him several times. Daddy, tomorrow is my birthday. Will you take me to Disneyland? Jiao Jiao shook his arm confidently. For some reason he used to think Jiao Jiao was cute and lively, but now he only felt extreme annoyance. He couldn't help thinking of Shinshin again. When Jiao Jiao lay recklessly in his arms acting coquettish, where was Shinshin? Shinshin had no father's love. The way she cried grievance, the way her eyes filled with tears, kept replaying in Finji's mind. I'm such a jerk. Finji beat his head. At this moment his guilt reached its peak. No, I can't just wait. I've hurt Willow and Shinshin enough. I have to find them and bring them back. Nova Ming cried and stopped him. Fin, since Willow Song has decided to leave you, she definitely doesn't want to be found by you. Just let her go, okay? You've been with me and Jiao Jiao all these years. She must have given up. Why don't we start over? After all these years I realize I still love you, Fin. Let's build a home for Jiao Jiao together. In the past, Nova Ming's crying would only make him feel distressed, but this time Finji impatiently pushed her away. If you want a home, go find your ex-husband. I have a wife and child, Nova Ming. Let's keep our distance from now on. Finji went to look for me personally. He tried live streaming, posting online and even contacting TV reporters, every way possible. But he was told, there was no mother-daughter pair like Willow Song and Shinshin in the country. Finji hugged his head and regretted for a long time. As if thinking of something, he suddenly looked up. I see. I know where Willow and Shinshin are. I never thought I would see Finji again. 2 months later he actually bought a plane ticket, came to the country where I settled, and appeared in front of Shinshin and me, dusty from the journey. Willow, Shinshin, I was wrong. After not seeing each other for months, Finji looked much haggard and worn out. His eyes stared at me affectionately and he even knelt down to apologize, begging me to take him back. Willow, I shouldn't have been so presumptuous, thinking I could control you, testing you again and again, hurting you again and again. At first I was just angry with you for being so casual, which made me resist you, but I forgot that I liked you from the beginning too. Willow, I ignored you and Shinshin during this time. Only now do I know how deeply you love me. Can you give me one more chance? Finji begged me tremblingly. If it were before seeing this scene, I didn't know how happy I would be. Once for a long time, my dream was to marry Finji and live a plain life with him as a family of 3. I even wrote all my feelings into full secret love diaries. After marriage, Finji saw those diaries, pushed them aside contemptuously, but I carefully kept them. But before canceling my identity and taking Shinshin abroad, I burned all those diaries to ashes. And when I burned them, there were no more waves in my heart. It's the same now. I spoke lightly. Finji, I already left the divorce agreement, but it doesn't matter. Now my domestic identity has been cancelled. Legally speaking, you and I are no longer husband and wife. You and Nova Ming still have unresolved past. Since you like her and her daughter, you can completely rekindle your relationship. I used to like you, but I'm not that cheap. Without you, Shinshin and I can live well too. Hearing this, Finji panicked immediately. He knelt and crawled towards me. No, it's all a misunderstanding. He said he had no such relationship with Nova Ming, they were innocent. I just felt sorry for Nova Ming raising the child alone, so I helped her take care of her daughter. Maybe once. I was moved by her. But now I've seen her true colors. Those reporters were deliberately invited by her. She wants to marry me now only for money. Willow, I've seen my own heart clearly. I want you. He begged bitterly. But I coldly pushed him away. I squatted down and asked my daughter, Shinshin, do you want to forgive Daddy? Shinshin stared at him calmly and shook her head. No. Shinshin has no daddy. The classmates are right, Shinshin is a bastard. Whether I'm a bastard or not doesn't matter. Shinshin has mommy, that's enough. Something in Finji's eyes seemed to crack completely. I smiled and prepared to see him out. Finji, you can go now. I was wearing a crisp suit, looked down at the watch on my wrist. I have a dinner appointment later, a big deal worth millions. In the past few months since coming abroad, I have secured several deals and earned tens of millions. While Finji was busy looking for his wife and child, his company declined sharply. He resolutely cut off ties with Nova Ming, but Nova Ming retaliated against him, exposing the scandal of Finji cheating during marriage abroad. Overnight, Finji's company's stock price plummeted to a level that even immortals couldn't save. And I just listened to the excitement, then threw myself back into my career. Finji came every month, insisting on staging a scene of repenting to his wife and daughter. But Shinshin and I got tired of it and refused to see him. Finally, my dad, who was fishing, stopped him. Finji, stop chasing. You had the chance before, but you didn't cherish it. Now you regret it and come to chase, it's too late. Finji later found out what made me make up my mind to go abroad was the video Nova Ming deliberately sent me. He turned pale and explained to me, Willow, don't believe it. It's a misunderstanding. We were playing truth or dare, it wasn't real. He said he only took care of Nova Ming and her daughter abroad, nothing more. But I didn't want to investigate whether it was true or not. After all, it had nothing to do with me anymore. Later, I met a very compatible partner in the business world and have been dating recently. He proposed to me, but I refused. I said I had no plan to enter marriage again. I asked Shinshin, are you willing to have a new daddy? Shinshin glanced playfully behind me, clapped her hands and smiled. If it's uncle, I'm willing for him to be my new daddy. And this scene was seen by Finji. He turned pale and left with a bitter smile. After he left, the nanny handed me a letter saying it was from Finji. My dad asked curiously, what's written on it? I didn't read it, just tore it up and threw it into the trash can. It's not important anymore. 2 more years passed. I heard that Finji couldn't get along in the country anymore. He had a car accident unexpectedly. Some people said he became a vegetable, others said he stabbed Nova Ming and went to jail. What the truth was, I didn't investigate. Because it was also not important anymore.